San Antonio, there was a crafted tweet about how Dame, who said it? It was one of the reporters, about how Dame had always had this respect for San Antonio, a deep respect.
Deep respect. That's beyond just respect.
Deep respect. You think any of that's real? Where did that come from? That threw me for a loop. They certainly have the assets to go after him and suddenly become an intriguing 23-24 team if Wembanyama's defense is at least where we think it's going to be. I think we're both a little wait and see with the offense, but the defense I think could be pretty special. Do you believe that one? Because I had trouble believing that one.
Why would he want to go there and be part of a rebuilding thing? Like, unless you think, like, as good as Wembanyama is going to be, I just think offensively, there's going to be some rough patches here early on. I would think, unless, I don't know. He's going to come right in and score 20. I think that's...
Right. You're in the finals next year with him, probably.
Yeah, right. So, maybe he scores 20 because there's enough shots for him there with Keldon and Vassell. But I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, if they're not including Keldon Johnson, the McDermott contract, like
I think Keldon Johnson would have to be in it.
Yeah. That makes a little bit of sense there, because then you go, all right, well, at least we're getting a young guy that you kind of like. And I like Keldon, but I also wonder, like, was he the lead guy in a tanking team? So how good is he really going to be? But, if you're Portland, you go, hey, who's the best young guy that we can get back that we actually want? We don't hate his contract. Like, can you do better than him? You might not be able to do that much better than him. I guess I was just a little surprised that, like, does Dame think that he would roll into San Antonio with what the rest of that roster is next year and start competing? Would he be patient enough to be like, all right, let's see how another year goes? So it felt like the way these two things are aligned, they just don't seem aligned. What San Antonio is going to be doing the next couple of years and what Dame is hoping to do before he's done. I'm with you. I was a little surprised by that.
If we're just talking about teams where he could go and have a real chance to win the title, other than Miami and Boston, and even Philly, like, I don't know if it's just him and Embiid and basically a below average supporting cast. I'm not positive that works either. Minnesota was pretty intriguing to me, and I don't even know if I'd go there, if he'd go there. But if it was Towns, and I don't even know what else they have to offer at this point. But Towns, and even just Towns for Dame, probably not enough. But I was just trying to think, if you had Gobert and Edwards and you kept Slow-Mo and you kept McDaniels and you had Dame, like, that is a team that I think could compete in a real way.
Yeah, because even whatever I think about Minnesota now, I'd expect them to compete next year without
Dame and Edwards, right? Is like, holy shit, this is going to be a tough game for us tonight.
Yeah, and I think it solves the inevitable Towns problem that you're going to have. And I don't know if Minnesota, look, I know what they would say. Minnesota would argue, hey, our guy's younger, and despite some of the flaws, like, this dude puts up crazy numbers, and he's one of the best shooting bigs, and he's not $63 million 4 years from now. So you got to give us something. You got to give us a sweetener. And Portland's going, your guy isn't even close to being the same guy as our guy, and then we'd have to re-sign him anyway. Like, we already know what all the different arguments would be. But I don't think it'd be like one side is overwhelming the other one with sweetener on top of one of those two players, right?
Or maybe you have I keep throwing in Houston, because Houston seems to me, they have all these young assets that aren't ready to play yet. And they also signed Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. So I'm like, does this team, are they trying to be good right now? And if they're trying to be good right now, maybe they'd want Towns. And maybe they'd give all the assets to Portland, and then Dame goes to Minnesota.
I can't wait to talk about Houston.
I think we save Houston for part 2.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. But, like, imagine them going like, hey, look, we can't do this deal now, but, like, Dylan Brooks has been here 48 hours, and he hasn't, obviously there's no games. There's no games, but he was picking up garbage the other day, which I don't know if you'd read that Anthony Richardson did that, Colts quarterback. So that's a huge sign of future success if you pick up garbage at an event after everybody leaves. So I don't, when I saw the Houston stuff and when some of those contracts became eligible to even be traded, but look, it kind of just gets back to the point that we started an hour ago. If these are the offers and I'm Portland,
you're waiting.
I just go, no.
You have to wait till December, January.
And then you go like, well, what's the downside to it? Oh, Dame isn't happy. I think the cool thing about Dame, and it's kind of the Durant thing, Where when you have Durant on your team and you're Brooklyn and you're like, all right, this guy wants everybody fired right after he got the extension and he wants all this stuff to work out. It's like, well, guess what he loves to do? He loves playing basketball.
Yeah.
And I think Lillard.
Let's use that against him.
Yeah. I think Lillard's probably more on that line.
I think of the bigger city teams, the irony of like OKC, Utah, New Orleans, who have all these assets, but it's really hard to lure a guy like Dame who's in a smaller market to be like, come to our small market instead. Like, I think Brooklyn, at least with all the Phoenix first and the swap they have and the Dallas pick and the Philly picks, like they have the assets to pull something. They have Dinwiddie. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I still feel like Simmons is at least intriguing if I'm a rebuilding team.
Oh,
like Portland to me is perfect. Portland is perfect. Just put him there with Scoot in the middle of nowhere, and at worst case there is an expiring contract in a year. But you know, as we covered earlier, I'm still not sure where that gets me if I'm Brooklyn ultimately. At least I have Dame and Bridges and Cam Johnson, and I have a poster, right, for the subway. When people are on the subway, it's like Nets. It's a new era, the new big three, whatever. At least I have that. Dame is somebody that I do think people would go to see in the New York area. They don't have a person like that now.
Right.
So I can kind of talk myself into that. I just don't know if I'm Dame. Am I in a better spot?
I like that you brought up those other teams because you feel like Utah, with all the future picks, because that's probably what Portland's going to end up doing.
Utah's the most. If Utah's like, we'd like Dame Lillard, and it's like, what's it going to take? They have the most to offer.
Because it's picks. Right.
They're basically the real estate buyer from Russia who just is paying all cash, and they don't even need like the inspection. They're just like, here's a suitcase. That's Utah. They're like, we have 12
Did you sell a house
picks
to a Russian recently? It seemed kind of specific.
I don't know. I was just making a joke. Utah has all those picks plus a couple young assets. They can throw Sexton in there. Like they can make they have a Linux expiring. They can make anything work. But with Dame Lillard, be like, cool, I'm going from Portland to Utah. And then where am I going?
I have to imagine that he's like, I'd like to go to one of the big cities now.
Right.
This time around. Even
but all the big
Miami.
cities are kind of have their guys already. Like the Lakers and the Clippers, they're kind of set. The Knicks, Brunson's the most popular Knick in 15 years. They're not going to get Dame. Miami doesn't have enough. So, that list goes down pretty fast. The Orlando Magic, are Paolo and Franz ready to be the big three with Dame?
I'm sure Orlando would be like, hey, if he wants to come here, he can put something together. But I can't imagine that I think the Miami thing is the trust in them, having the best coach, seeing what they just did without him, how great they are on the margins with all these other players, which you don't expect that to just kind of run its course. But I also think I'd be like afraid of signing some of their guys away from them with the Strus money. And look, the Gabe Vincent deal is a really good deal for the Lakers with that kind of price. So I tried all morning. And I kept looking at stuff and I was trying to be realistic. And I was like, I can't tell if this is going to be one of the classic NBA lessons where you go, oh, I guess they just did it. Like, why did I put any time into this? Like, he just got his way, right? Or if it's going to be one of the rare times with the more recent developments of players having this much time left on their contract going, no, I don't care. This isn't the year left thing. This isn't the lame duck situation. The money's mine. All that money is mine. And now I'd like to go somewhere else, and I don't care. And some GMs would give in, and that's why I kind of defend Darryl a little bit in the past because I thought what he did with Simmons in a really tough spot. But I don't know. I don't in a weird way. Like, am I rooting for that? Like, am I rooting for some teams just to start going? No, sorry, no, we're not giving you away. Sorry, dude.
If you're a Blazer fan, wouldn't you be like, hey, man? We actually have a really nice young foundation now. If you're going to trade Dame Lillard, can you actually get real value back for him? Like, do we have to give him away to, thanks for everything, Dame, for the last 11, 12 years. But if it's okay with you, can I not get 30 cents in the dollar for our best asset? Is that cool? Can we get a real trade back for you? Thanks. That's how I would feel if I was a Blazer fan.
That's why I always loved the Kobe to Chicago one so much because they were like, all right, I guess it'd be like Luol and then whatever. And then Kobe was like, no. Like, I need
those guys on my team. Yeah.
I don't want you to trade, because it's some of these get so out of control where it's, okay, I want the max deal, oh, and by the way, now I want to be traded, but don't trade any of the good players because I want them there too when I go so I can have a chance to compete and, get back to me by the end of the week. And you're just like, what?
Well, that's why with Phoenix, putting Cam and Bridges in the trade is kind of nuts in retrospect. The desperation they had to get that deal done, I still don't fully understand it.
Especially too when Ramona had the piece after the fact that was like they wanted to make sure it didn't turn into a bidding war. Guess what? If Durant is telling me, who by the way said I should be fired this summer, going back a year, and then has the extension, and then decides actually I'm out of here too after Kyrie makes his trade demand, I'm shopping that around. I'm sure, but I don't know how much better you do than Bridges and then all of those picks.
I made up a trade. I'm going to read it to you right now. That involves, and again, Jaylen Brown. Cerruti, please keep checking Twitter to make sure Jaylen Brown didn't sign the extension. But let's say Dame goes to Boston and Jaylen goes to Houston. And now if I'm Portland and I have my pick of Houston assets, Russillo, would you rather have Jalen Green or Jabari Smith?
Jabari Smith.
Okay. Would you rather have Cam Whitmore or Eason?
I got to tell you, and by the way, going back to last week, I feel like it got played a little bit more that it was about the background stuff. It was the knee, which I tried to emphasize last week.
Yeah.
Cam Whitmore dropped more because of the knee, even though I added more context to it, which kind of turned into something that was beyond. But look, I think I'd like Tari Eason better, even though he's not the player Cam Whitmore is. It's just there's enough teams out there that were like,
I agree
about the
All
injuries.
Right.
So you agree? Really? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
I think I
like Eason. I think he's good. So
I think Eason's one of those guys like I had a harder time with at LSU, but now when I watch him in the pros, it's like just throw him out there and watch him do stuff.
He gives a shit. Jabari, Eason, Porter's contract, which seems prohibitive, but it's really a 1-year deal. And you can get out of it after next season. Malcolm Brogdon, who they can flip if they want, and a couple of those Brooklyn picks that Houston has. And if I'm Portland, that's a pretty good trade. And I'm getting Jabari Smith and Eason and some picks, and I can flip Brogdon into something else. And I think I would rather do that than anything Miami has to offer. Now, Jalen might sign his extension 2 minutes from now, but I'm just a little suspicious it hasn't happened yet. Anyway, my point is there's way better stuff out there, and it's also a trade. Like, who knows when we get to December, January, who knows who's going to be desperate? I don't know. I just would not trade him now.